So, I hear this too from my students. Well, what is this really for? Why am I doing this? Besides, I have to satisfy a requirement for my degree or something like that. And, there are multiple answers. First of all, mathematics, when it's done in more than, as we talked about, sort of trying to unpack what's going on between the input and the output, how are we getting to answers? I don't have a copy here. If I had one of my most recent mathematical papers, and really it's not just mine, any mathematician, it's a lot more writing and logic and argumentation than it is things that you would maybe normally think of when you think about, oh, I'm going to do math. We don't fill boards with equations and then sort of just print that into, okay, this is my mathematics. We're telling a story. We're crafting a logical story. We have givens. We have ways to logically connect those givens. And we are making a very structured argument. I have a good friend who is a lawyer in New York City who does a lot of trial work and a lot of different things where he has to sort of lay out the story for a jury or, make a persuasive case before a judge or things like that. That is a huge part of what mathematicians do. So if writing is the thing that's more in your soul, I encourage you to, first of all, don't think that excludes you from being a great mathematician. It's actually necessary for doing great mathematics. But the other thing is, I encourage you to bring more of that into your mathematics. Write, instead of just a list of equations, write it in complete sentences. That's one of the things we have to work with our students to do. Tell the story in complete sentences. Write rich sentences that happen to include mathematics in them so that the argument is laid out. Look at that as an exercise both in mathematics and in writing. It can be a challenge. It can be a tremendous amount of fun. And it's very important. The other thing, there are increasingly few, only really a handful these days, of majors at the university. I'm trying to think. Maybe I can think of 2 or 3, no kidding, off the top of my head. There's probably a couple more, where you are divorced from using data to justify and think about what you do. And there is a story that needs to be told with data, as we talked about, but that requires the mathematical skills in almost any of the classes that you're taking in high school, taking or teaching, depending on who's listening at this moment. And so I encourage you to explore more deeply how the things you're learning that may seem to be on their face just strictly rote algebraic exercises. Think about how they go into the way we untangle, organize, explain data, find those stories, find that structure. Like I said, I work a lot with networks. Networks are very visual. I mean, I have jokingly said I get paid to connect the dots all day, which is in some sense true, right? A network is just things that are connected by something, people that are connected by a friendship, any kind of things that are connected by things, to use a very technical description. Well, that alone, if I just drew a bunch of dots and connected some of them and threw that out there, it's meaningless. It could look like gobbledygook. You have to be able to explain, describe, write through the logical parts of that. And so for those of you who are writers, or who enjoy writing, make that part of the mathematics that you're doing, that you're learning, because it's an incredibly important part of how we add context, add understanding, and build understanding. If you can't verbally explain, if the only thing you can fall back on is a list of sort of a sequence of formulas, blank equals blank equals blank equals blank, I think you're also missing out on part of the richness that's there and needs to be explored.